Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you find yourself today. Okay, we have Miss Veronica joining us. I hope all is well with you today. It's a beautiful day.
Good afternoon. All is well.
Great, great. Even though it's raining here, but it's still a beautiful day. Alrighty, you all welcome to analyze this. Um, Today is going to be another interesting discussion. We're going to have another interesting discussion. It's basically going to be a continuation of where we left off last week um, or last weekend. I would love for us to begin by always reminding ourselves that creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. I want to repeat myself. Creativity and inventions are not by the color of one's skin, but by an educated mind. So educate yourself irrespective of the color of your skin, and you will be able to create and be able to invent. Do not limit creativity and inventions to the color of a skin. It is by an educated mind. With that being said, I also want us to remind ourselves of the fact that on this platform, we don't entertain insults. However, we entertain divergent opinions. We entertain dissenting opinions. We don't claim that we know it all here or we have all the answers here. But we want to create a platform and give ourselves the opportunity to be able to discuss, dissect issues, and think through issues so we can arrive at a very sensible conclusion, which will help us find solutions to problems facing the Black race as a whole and humanity. So basically, we don't entertain insults. You can respectfully disagree with opinions here. You can table your opinions respectfully, and we will judge all and come to an amicable conclusion. We don't argue here. We discuss. I believe for about a million times we've explained the difference between discussions and argument. Argument is when you have an entrenched position and you want to shove it down somebody's throat. Discussion is when you have an opinion and you table it for us to discuss. And that's what exactly what we do here. With that being said, I want to zoom straight into I know Miss Veronica, I sent you the topic, which is now going to be the only thing we're going to discuss. Unfortunately, I I was a little busy, so I couldn't get to send you the rest of the things we're going to be talking about. But it's basically the continuation of what we started last weekend. The only difference is going to be what I'm going to talk about right now, um, which is the oral. And I just want to give my 2 cents on the concept or the institution of the oral in Ghana politics now as it stands. Since after the elections, we had a new, or Ghanaians had the opportunity of choosing a new political party to um, spearhead the affairs of the nation. And one of the campaign promises made by the current political party, ruling party, is the fact that they're going to institute ORA, which is Operation Recover All Loot, Operation Recover All Loot. Um, and so they intended to recover the loot that has gone on in Ghana. I've heard the discussions over um, on social media, and some people raise very legitimate questions as to when is it going to start? Is it going to start from just the Fourth Republic? Is it going to start from pre-Fourth Republic? Is it going to stretch from just the immediate past government, or it is going to, these are very valid questions people have raised. For me, I would be very excited. I would be happy if all of these monies are recouped and given back to or put back into the nation's coffers. It's going to be a beautiful thing and a wonderful thing because most of the monies they're talking about over 21 billion US dollars, which I think it's a huge money that can go a long way to help Ghana if we're able to recoup all these money. Um, I have a few concerns which I'm going to table here on analyze this because that's what we do here. So one of my biggest concern is the fact that this whole issue has been politicized right from the word go. I hear some people who are uh, discussing the aura, presenting it as the current government's political program. And I get scared a little bit because if it's the current government's political program, then the lifespan of oral, I can assure you it's going to be just about 8 years or 4 years, depending on what happens after every elections. And so that is my number one concern. Um, my number two concern is after oral, what next? After all is recovered, all the loot is recovered, what next? So this is the tendency. I believe it runs through most of the African countries. I am very certain about that, even though I've not been to all of the African countries, but I'm very certain this trend runs through almost all of the African countries. A problem can be identified, and committees are going to be set up. Boards are going to be constituted and what have you. And research is going to be done. Um, Suggestions are going to be made. And sometimes they're going to move a little further to um, implement some of the findings. But then the lifespan of whatever um, project or activity is embarked on is short-lived because again it is politicized, so it's not a national agenda, it's not made a national objective. So programs and projects and systems put in place to, as it were, curtail or to be able to stop these mayhem or these negative occurrences are most of the time not in place. So you find out that even though, let's say, oral might be successful in the next 4 years, maybe after or 8 years, nobody knows. And then the moment there's a change in government or the change in political parties, oral is dead. And let's say people go back to business as usual. And this trend keeps occurring every now and then. And my point is, why can't we just pause as a people and say, hey, this or these are the myriads of issues or problems facing our community. And XYZ is as a result of these loopholes. So what are we putting in place? What systems are we putting in place? What programs are we putting in place to be able to solve these problems? Not just ad hocly take care of the problems within a certain period of time, but let's make this a long-term project that will help people or that will help the community or the nation. So this is going to prevent people from looting because we have these systems in place. And so if the first system, which is going to prevent people from looting, does not help, then the second system, which is strengthening and set up properly, is going to go after these people or investigate these issues, go after them. And then another system, which is the judiciary system, which is also going to be strengthened or set up properly, is also going to prosecute these people. So if we don't try to set these systems in place, a government will come, a government will go, and new programs will come, new programs will go. Monies are going to be pumped into the formation of groups or anti-corruption bodies or whatever we call them, and nothing comes out of it. So I want to plead with those in authority now. Let us, first of all, not make this an NDC agenda. Let us make this a national agenda. Let us put programs, systems in place that even if we're able to recover or recoup all these monies, we'll be able to seal those loopholes. And that will prevent future spillage. Let us not just recover the loot and just leave it as that, you know. And the second fear of it being politicized is it's going to be used as a tool for witch hunting. I heard somebody saying if there is a witch, then there must be a hunter. But I don't believe that we have to use this as a tool for witch hunting. The intention would have to be nation building. The intention is not, you came after me, I'm coming after you. It's not going to help anybody. And that has been the attitude and the trend. And so we are not able to solve these problems. One government comes into power, they go after the next government, claiming they have looted, they have stolen. You expect some level of sanity to prevail for people to say, hey, this is the issue. Let us put systems in place to curtail or to stop these spillages so we don't repeat the cycle years after years after years after years. But no, what we see is this government comes, set up a body, pumps money into it. They go after certain people, and some they might jail, and then the next government comes into power, pardons them. It looks as if we're not serious. It looks as if we're not serious. And that takes me to my second submission, which is I wasn't going to talk about this because I spoke about it last week, even though I did not go into details or I did not stretch my discussion for what I said last week. But you know what? Sometimes I'm beginning to think and believe that Trump is what Africa needs. I'm going to do a submission on that subject alone. Is Trump what Africa needs? And I'm tempted to believe that Trump is what Africa needs. Because it's so absurd and it's so ridiculous. So ridiculous to even comprehend that a nation which calls itself a sovereign nation would always have to go begging for money to supplement their budget. And I believe last week, Prof gave a very clear, typical example where you think you have established your home, but you wake up every morning with cup in hand, going to your neighbor's house to go beg for money to feed your children. Where is your pride as a nation? And yet you want to be a part of G7 to be taking decisions? No, you can't be there because you are the errand boy. You can't be there because you serve as a butler. You can't be at the decision-making table because you're a butler. African politicians, please wake up. Wake up. I know some of you in power have no clue. I get it. But those of you who have clue, who knows what is going on, who believes you have solutions to the problems, come to the forefront. You know, we've bought into this negative, demonic concept that politics is a dirty game. So some people refrain from getting into politics. Let's think through this for a minute. How can an institution which takes care of the life of a whole nation become a dirty game? And so we leave that institution in the hands of dirty people. Think about it. An institution that runs the affairs of your generation and the next generation and generations to come of a nation, you call it a dirty game, so you leave it in the hands of dirty people? Let us wake up. Let us wake up. We need leadership in politics in Africa. Like I said the other time, we no longer need politicians in Africa. We need leadership in politics in Africa. Okay, so I was trying to find out how much money America gives to Africa every year. And it varies from 7 billion, 7 point something billion to, I think the highest I saw was about 18 point something billion a year. And I was like, come on. Are you telling me a continent like Africa cannot afford this token? Yes, I call it a token. You see, no wonder Macron gets up and talks to African politicians anyhow. And the other time, the South African president was mad that they are being treated like little schoolboys. Yes, that is how you are supposed to be treated. If you cannot think and develop programs and develop your people, and you always be at the beck and call of other people, that is how you're going to be treated. I'm sorry, there's no any other way you're going to be treated. So we need leadership in our body politics in Africa. People who have their heads. I remember when I was growing up, my mom would say, somebody's got a head on his shoulder or on her shoulder. We need people who have their heads on their shoulders. In other words, people who think properly. Thinkers is what we need. And my final submission, it looks like if I'm taking all the time, but I'm still going to give opportunity for contributions. But my final submission is on the public funding basic education. I've heard some discussions going on. I've heard submissions. I've heard people talking about this, and some people are claiming, hey, we don't have money. I'm going to broaden this. I'm not just going to make this a Ghanaian issue. I'm going to broaden it to Africa. Yes, we may not have the money to sustain that program, but the reason we're producing people in power, messing up the future of the continent, is because we are not educating the people or grooming the people into power. It's as simple as that. There's a saying which goes like, what goes around comes around. What goes around comes around. There's a computer term, garbage in, garbage out. You cannot put in garbage and expect some different. And so it is the investment we make into education is what produces those in power. It is the investment we make in education is what produces those in power. If we want quality leadership, we have to invest into our educational system. The issue of we don't have money to fund all the kids, it has to be only brilliant kids. My question is, who is a brilliant kid? Who is a brilliant kid? Who is not a brilliant kid? And who is a brilliant kid? You see, when we fail to do our jobs as the preparers of the next generation, then we have the audacity to segregate the kids so our job will be easier for us. These kids are not brilliant, so let's just leave them alone. Leave them alone. Let them take care of their own future. There is nothing like a brilliant kid or a dumb kid. I think I read it somewhere. He said there is no bad students. It's only bad teachers. The fact that the kid is not good in sciences does not mean the kid is not good at all in anything. Please, let us think. If we want to administer leadership, let us use what is in here, the white substance between our ears. Let us use it. No kid is dumb. We need to set up systems to take care of every kid. Every kid has something to offer. Every kid brought something to the table or is bringing something to the table. It is up to us to fish that thing out, help that kid to develop that thing and serve it to the benefit and to the advancement of his or her generation. So the issue of we don't have enough money, we got to take care of only the brilliant kids. Oh, if you have money to afford the basic education for your kid, so be it. There are private schools. You can take your kid to the private schools. If you don't want to take them to private schools and you still want to keep them in the public schools, you can still do that. And if you feel led to help support the finances of that school, go ahead and do that. But don't tell me. It has to be looked at on need basis, and some kids are so brilliant and they can be helped if please. The basic education is very vital. If we get that wrong, every other thing that is going to come out is going to be wrong. And that is that's what we're seeing now. So wherever we need to find the money, that is, you see, you don't get into leadership to enjoy the largesse and the benefits of leadership. You get into leadership to work, to solve problems. Number one responsibility of leadership is solving problems. So the issue of giving excuses is neither here nor there. Leaders don't give excuses. If you want to execute leadership, excuses should be erased from your books. Leadership finds solution to problems. And so if you opt out to be a leader and execute leadership to serve your people or in the service of your generation, then you have to be a person of substance, a thinker who is about to solve problems. The success of your leading can be valued by how successful you were able to solve problems. Leadership is valued on how successful you are able to solve problems. So the free, I don't even want to call it free because somebody is paying for it. The public funding basic education is very vital. And it should not be to just some brilliant kids because we don't have money. The same as a father or a parent saying, we don't have enough money, so let's take two of our brilliant kids to school and leave the rest two because we think they're dumb. So leave them at home. It's not going to work for us. This thing has not been working for us and it's never going to work for us. Let us think. And that is the definition somebody gave to insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different results. It does not work that way. That is a good definition of insanity. In other words, a good definition of sanity is knowing that what you have been doing is not working, so you want to change the application and apply the right principles to what you're doing in order to get the right results. On this note, I would want to pause. And if anybody has a suggestion, a contribution, a question, we'll go ahead and take that. Ms. Veronica, do you have something to?
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. Excuse my picture. I'm on babysitting duty. So,
That's okay.
um, when you talked about the children, it brought to mind what my thought is on young people and saying there are no dumb children. Children, youth, students rise to the level of the expectation of their leader or their teacher. So when that teacher has a specific expectation of that youth, they will amaze you with what they can do based on the leadership. And automatically that brings us right directly to leadership, right? But definitely we can't count out any young people, and that's across the board. We always have to look because whatever level that youth are on, there is always something to offer. When you sent me the topic of schooling and education, I did some quick searches, and Ghana is really doing some amazing things as far as education is concerned. Your sciences are amazing. Your high school students are competing with the best of the best globally. And it's amazing to see what Ghana's young people are doing. Even in their early childhood education, they have some things that they're working on that are right in line with what's happening globally with early childhood education, which is commendable. So just to keep in mind to continue that work. Um, when it comes to talking about the conversation of the type of education that's offered to children, this conversation just came up in our group because we gave a scholarship last year, and we'll be giving another one this year to some young people. And when documents were submitted about um, who the scholarship would go to and proof of so forth of them, attending school, we as Americans had a question because it was a private school. And from our perspective, private school meant that you are already somebody with money. So if you're sending your child to private school, our perspective was, well, you can afford it, because we're trying to send the scholarship to those who are having financial issues.
Yeah.
And our Nigerian side of the board really took time to explain to us what education looks like for a lot of public schools. And I'm speaking to Nigeria specifically, but I'm sure this is something that is seen across the continent,
Right.
um, of the way that public education looks there, and you're actually paying for it, and there's not enough supplies. There are very low funded, extremely low funded. So when we begin to understand that, we are able to look at how we do scholarship and how we are funding moving forward, understanding the challenges that are Africa are in Africa. But again, I have seen some things that are also very promising. So in leadership, particularly in education, when you're looking for different ways to educate classrooms and teachers and turn the box around a little bit, like look outside of the box, there are really some things that we can do. And we don't even have to look beyond it. My opinion is it always starts with you. So you, one person, can make an amazing difference by just jumping in and doing your part. And then we link chains, like one person, like you and I met. We're like, hey, we're on the same page. We jumped in, we're starting to try to build bridges. We link in with somebody else. And it's amazing what one, two, three, how we join and how we work together and how we can make a change even before we get to the level of government and to the level of other authorities, but we can help our communities and our towns just with jumping in and doing what you need to do.
Yep. That is a brilliant submission. Are you done or are you still talking?
Okay, you can. Okay, that I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Because I see you're still unmuted, so I thought you were still
Okay.
talking, but I couldn't hear you. That is a brilliant submission. Yes. It's rather unfortunate that we have people in positions of power who think that some kids are just dumb, so we would have to. I believe was it Clinton or Bush who did the No Child Left Behind program? I think it was George Bush who
I
did the.
wouldn't say it was Bush.
Okay, yeah, the No Child Left Behind, which I believe in that particular statement 2000%, because I'm it's gotten to a point where I even want to believe that the success of a teacher should be measured by the success of every single kid in his or her class. Because it's becoming, yes, some of the kids are exceptionally gifted. We don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. Some of them are exceptionally gifted. When I was in basic school, one of my very good friends, childhood friends, um, was really struggling in the very basics, middle school, primary to middle school, and we used to make fun of her. When she got into high school, she became one of the best students. So just think about it. I was thinking about this and I was like, so what if the system has classified her as a dumb kid? So an investment is not made into her, So every kid has a gift to offer. It is our responsibility. I don't want to digress, but that is why I'm going to actually do a whole discussion on parenting. That is why parenting is very vital. The biological parents or the foster parents or even teachers, I'm putting all of them in that category of parenting. School teachers, whoever, anybody who comes into contact with a kid in terms of impacting something into the kid's life is a parent one way or the other. So we're gonna dedicate some time for that. We all need to help in identifying what's in each and every kid because everybody is unique. You cannot bunch us and grade us. That is why sometimes I have a problem with even the school gradings, the way they grade kids in school. I don't think it's right. Yes, some of the kids might be struggling in the sciences, but they might be good somewhere else. Why can't we look at what that kid is good in and develop whatever the kid has? We all can be good in sciences. We all can be good in math. We all can be good in fixes or whatever subject it is. But it does not mean some are dumber than the others. They all have exceptionally unique, important gifts they bring into the table. It is up to parenting to identify. When I use parenting here, I'm including teachers and everybody who impacts into the life of the kid to identify what it is the child has that needs to be developed. So I remember the first time I came across that statement that there are no bad kids but bad teachers. I was so excited. I was so excited, and I was like, "This is right on point." So I'm just pleading to people in power that every kid is important. Let's look at the strength of every kid and let us develop the strength because that is what is going to develop the nations and the continent and the people and humanity as a whole. It is only the gifts that is going to do that. So we cannot label certain kids who fall by the wayside. We leave them to fall out and sometimes we want to blame the kid for not pulling themselves up and all this stuff. It, it's not right. It's not right. And so if we want to look at the public funding basic education, we want to say that let us make sure we make this available to every kid, irrespective of their level of intelligence or their level of financial background, whatever it is, their level of anything, irrespective of whatever, every kid must be able to access education because it is their right. It is not a privilege. We're not helping the kids. We're not helping some parents. It is the right of the nation. It is the responsibility of the nation to fulfill that right of every kid. So please, the excuses of no money, and so we cannot make this a broad-based program. Some kids had to pay, some kids who are brilliant can be considered and all that gibberish. Please, please, let's reconsider those statements. Let's think through our submissions and our plans because it's not going to help us as a nation. And that is what even leads to classism. Then you have the aristocrats who think they have all the brains in the world to manipulate and and suppress the rest of the people just because they're not within the same class as them. So please, we need our people in power to think through the issue of public funding education. And that has been my fear. I believe Miss Veronica made mention of the fact that Ghana has one of, or Ghana is developing some of the best. Yes. And I was shocked. Yes, I must say this. I was shocked that the Minister of Education was removed based on just because of political. It blows my mind. It blows my mind when we think the way we are thinking. You know, this is somebody who came in and started restructuring the educational system, introducing the sciences and what have you. There's a name I've forgotten. Is this uh I've forgotten, but there's a name they have for the system, and it's being implemented on piloting basis. So they're piloting some programs where they have the sciences and the robotics and what have you in some of the schools, and some of these kids are doing amazing stuff. You know, and I was talking to somebody the other time, and I was like, it is my prayer that this guy will be maintained as the Minister of Education, but it didn't happen. I'm only hoping and praying that the new minister will continue the good works. But looking at the trend and the trajectory of the way things go in Africa, Miss Veronica, is your participant Elisha?
He's going to be listening in.
Okay. Sorry, I'm a bit careful because of what happened the other time, so I just I'm making sure I don't just admit anybody to. Sorry about that, Elisha. And you're welcome. All right. So yes, as I was saying, the public funding education has to continue. The governments in Africa needs to find the money. The money is there. They need to find it. The money is there. Africa is the richest continent in the world. The money is there. We need leadership that will cultivate and harness these resources and develop them into material resources. So please let us not belabor this point. It's not even an issue for discussion. The issue of basic uh, public funding basic education is not an issue of discussion. It's an issue of must. So, like I said, is the right of the children to have basic education, to be educated. And by the way, what we're doing in Africa now is not education, though. We're schooling, which is also an issue we're going to be addressing here sometime later. It needs to be looked at. Teaching somebody how to read and write alone is not education. And we have been schooled to the point that even when you use your local language, you're seen as not being intelligent. When you use you rattle they call something the Queen's language. That thing kills me.
Can I,
Yeah, jump in.
I was heartbroken when I heard that, because it is amazing to be able to start off with two languages, three languages, four languages, some people, and to and I did experience that some with some of friends in Nigeria talking about their children attending schools that only taught English,
Hmm.
and that disappointment of them not really knowing the Yoruba language that was their mother tongue, and it is heartbreaking, and that should be something that is a part, built into the education so that you come out with both. I think it enhances the youth's ability when they're able to do that.
And it's been proven scientifically that kids are more intelligent if they can speak more than one language, And my other thing is, even the textbooks we're using needs to be translated into the local languages for the kids to understand some of the things. If you're teaching a kid osmosis, what does it mean? What is osmosis? But if you're able to translate it into the local language, the kid can identify, they can relate. And that is what education does. I always tell people education would enlighten you to relate to your inner self, to know who you are, to know your gifts. That's what education does. But what we're doing now is schooling, and that is the system the colonial masters left in place, to be able to perpetually serve their interests, because this is exactly what we're doing now. And so no wonder most of the African countries will produce people from school and have no jobs for them or no work for them to do because they've been schooled. And if you're schooled, you're told what to do. And so somebody who told you what to do would have to find you something to do. And so if that somebody has nothing for you to do, then you become useless in your community. But if you're educated, you have been enlightened to be deployed, not employed. And so when you come out of school, some people look at, I'm not going to mention names, but we have very clear examples of people who identified themselves in schools and they dropped out of school and started pursuing who they really are, deploying themselves. And that is what education is supposed to do. You identify your gift, you develop that gift, and you deploy that gift to the benefit of society. But when you're schooled, you're told what to do. You're told how much grade you had. You're told how intelligent you are on paper. And at the end of the day, you're told this is the office you have to fit in with your level of intelligence. And so no wonder they produce a whole bunch of school graduates and nothing for them to do. And most of them are walking around selling water or, doing all kinds of menial jobs just to put food on the table, just to be employed and not being deployed. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being employed. Everybody has to go through that process because it's a learning process where you develop certain skills, you develop certain qualities, you develop certain principles in the process of going through the phase of employment. But then it's a phase, you have to go through it. And after that phase, you deploy your gifts to the benefit of humanity. That is why we are here. And so if we cannot comprehend this concept, and one of the things I always say, and I know some people might disagree with me. I keep telling people if there is an afterlife and I meet with Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, one of the first questions I was going to ask him is, or I'm going to ask him is, why didn't you change the schooling system in Ghana to an educational system? But that's just by the way. He's not the only person who is responsible for that. There've been a whole bunch of people who've come after him who are still continuing with the schooling system, who produce for the benefit of our colonial masters, serving their interests, you know, putting puppets and I'm being tempted to use a word. I'm trying to find a very beautiful word to where we produce people who really cannot think to solve problems and put them in power. They don't even understand the principle of responsibility. So please let us not waste our time on debating whether public funded education should be discontinued or should be, if it has to be modified, it has to be modified to cover every kid. And it has to be modified to bring substance to the program. And that's all I can say about that. And so, African leaders, I want to believe that this is an opportunity. Nature, God, whatever the energies of the world has given Africa a beautiful opportunity. I'm borrowing Mr. Trump's word, beautiful opportunity. It's beautiful, beautiful opportunity to begin to build our own, create our wealth, build our confidence and our boldness so we can you see the funny part when I saw some comments and some suggestions that Africa should be added to the G7 countries of the world to be able to be a part of the decision making body. I laughed. I laughed. How can you take a space at the table when all you do is to open your hands or your palm to be fed by another person? But Trump is giving us a beautiful opportunity. Let us take advantage of it. And I want this, I want to hope that this clarion call Trump is sounding is going to start making us think about Africa unity. I want to hope that this clarion call, because if we unite as a continent, economically, on every sphere, you have no idea how powerful. You have no idea the power Africa is going to wield. So I want to plead with our leaders. This is a time to take advantage. And Trump, I want to believe, aside any and every other thing, is a gift to African continent, to the African continent. Let us take advantage of the hardships. You see, that's the concept most people don't understand. When somebody puts you in a corner, when somebody puts you in a tight spot, or when somebody creates a hardship for you, that is not the end of your life. That is actually the beginning of your life. Because that is where you are going to use your brains to think and find solutions by yourself to the problems. Just go down the annals of history. Every great country emerged great out of a tribulation. Germany, Japan. Think about it. All the nations went through some tight spot, tight corners, where they sat down and said, enough is enough. We are angry at the status quo, so we are going to do something positive, something progressive about our situation. You cannot be fed with a silver spoon and think. The two don't mix. So let's take this opportunity to begin to live Africa. It's a beautiful, beautiful. I'm loving the word beautiful. And Trump says it's beautiful. It's a beautiful time for us to sit back. What can we do? What can we do to develop our confidence, to develop our image, to develop our continent as a whole. And on that basis, Ms. Veronica, if you have something to say before we bring the curtains down.
Thank you for having me.
You're always welcome. You have a seat at the table, so you're always welcome, man. Thank you so much for being a part of ANALYZ this. Elisha hopped on, but he's in Africa, right?
Yes, he's in Nigeria.
Okay, okay. Yeah. I know our people in Africa wants us to make the videos short, so they can, because getting data to watch the videos or being a part of the discussion sometimes I kind of understand it's hard.
Yeah, and
Um,
also light as well.
it,
Sometimes if light is not available, so definitely.
yep, yep, yep. So we can understand. But anyway, thank you so much. I'm talking to somebody who would go in and break down the videos into pieces where people can just pick and choose which areas of the videos they can watch when they have the opportunity to do so. So we're working on that. It's not like we're ignoring you. We're seriously working on that. And hopefully very soon we're gonna find solution to that issue as well. But thank you all for being a part of ANALYZ this. We are going to be here next week, same time, and we hope that you're going to share, invite other people to be a part of the discussion so we together and collectively can develop ourselves in order to develop our community. My name is Nana Osei Jr., and I I'm a humble servant of African International Organization and Certo Leadership International. Next week, we're going to be here, same time. Be blessed. Bye-bye.